Good morning, folks. It is time to do it again. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We made it to the weekend. I am glad you are here with me. I am super glad you are here with me. Before we get started and go to the opening, thank you for the support, September Bush. I appreciate you. I really do. Before we get to the opening, there's something I just need to clarify with you folks. Some of your emails have been slipping into my spam folder. I found some old emails. I read my emails. My email address is on my website. You're more than welcome to go check it out. If there's something important you want to tell me, please, by all means, tell me. One of the emails that I got this one didn't go into the spam folder, by the guy that was wanting to send the coffee to me went into the spam folder. You're more than welcome to send it to my PO box, which is also on my website. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I didn't get back with you. It seemed to upset you very much, and I apologize. Um, but there was an email in there that was just pretty important to me. I like to make sure, we've got a big international audience here. We do. We've got a big international audience here, and I was approached by one of our longtime listeners from Scotland, one of our longtime audience members from Scotland. I talked about the significance of the Labour picking up the seat from the SNP just outside Glasgow, and I may have given the impression that the SNP as a party was right wing and in a right wing coalition with Rishi Sunak, and I did not mean to do that, folks. I just didn't want to dig so deep into it. I was giving you the Cliff Notes version. The SNP are they are not. There's another party in Scotland similar to BNP that they're nuts. That's not the SNP, folks. The SNP had a few defectors that went over to Rishi Sunak. This was an important election that showed Keir Starmer and Labour were on a roll and had the wind at their backs. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that the SNP, I like to give you good information. The SNP are a liberal left party. So let's just go on. Let's get to it. Thank you for getting in touch with me. And if I do say anything wrong, when I'm spitting out facts, sometimes I'll trip over my own words. Email me. Let me know. I read your emails. I appreciate talking to you. So get your coffee. Let's get at it. We got a lot of news today, man. Republicans are going crazy. See you. Well, I tell you, folks, it has been a hell of a day. Old Steve Scalise is out. He is out. Remember, I told you, when we started, we talked about the four likely candidates, at least Stefanik, and then we knew there would be Jim Jordan, and then Steve Scalise was the I said to be the most likely that they would put forward, because while he is a rabid racist, which is not a disqualifier in the Republican Party, he is, well, he understands the process. He's been the majority whip. He's been around forever. He's out, folks. He's gone. After winning enough votes to get the nomination, he is gone. And to be quite honest with you, why he's gone, that's, you just got to love it, man. Schadenfreude makes you happy. You just got to love it when the Republicans are in disarray. Uh, 1 second, folks. I've got to make a quick technical change. I hate to do this. There's going to be a quick blip, but it'll be okay. 1 second. Okay. All right. Sorry about the delay. Just wanted to make sure we had our backup internet available just in case our new internet system. I tell you, folks, whenever you support the show, we do anything we can to make it better. To make it better. We've got a more reliable internet service here. Unfortunately, because I am rural as hell, I don't BS you. I'm Texas. I live out in the sticks. I live out in the country. There are woods all around me. I could walk out on my front porch and take a pee and nobody will see it. It's just where I live. So internet has been a challenge. We had been doing it through a cellular system. We've picked up a wired system. I appreciate the support. Um, while it's really no faster, so camera quality is going to be what it is, but it is more reliable. We should drop fewer packets. So let's hope it stays smooth. If it doesn't, I'll switch over back to the old cellular system. But yeah, Steve Scalise. He's out, man. He's out. Here's a picture of old Steve Scalise back when he was a happier man. Yeah, he is gonzo. And how he ended up going out, it really is just telling for what's going on in the Republican Party. See, he and Jim Jordan made a deal before the vote. They said, look, we're not going to go to war with each other. Jim Jordan says, you win the vote, I'll support you. Steve Scalise says, you win the vote, I'll support you. That's just the way it goes. We're not gonna tear the party apart. And then immediately after Steve Scalise winning, Jim Jordan of the Chaos Caucus started ripping into Steve Scalise immediately. Immediately, you saw the nutballs attacking him for having cancer, um, but they did a little bit more than that. And this is going to be testimony, folks, to you. I'm going to rail a little bit. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here about the corporate media. What I'm about to show you is public information. It's information we should have had already. You know, I'm an independent commentator. I don't have the staff and the wherewithal to do FOIA requests on 535 members of Congress. I don't. You know who does? Every major corporate media outlet. Because those FEC filings that I'm about to talk to you about, they're not complicated. They're not. And really, all you're doing is scanning through them to look for significant numbers. And the corporate media doesn't do it. Just basic journalism. You would think that 1/3 of our government, the legislative branch of our government, they would be slightly interested in where they're spending their money. Because if you know where they're spending their money, well, you know, you can backtrack that and have a good idea where the money's coming from. But they don't do any of it. What I'm about to tell you should have come out years ago, but we had to wait for the Chaos Caucus to go to war with Steve Scalise before we found this out. Turns out Steve Scalise has expensive taste. This is the Capitol Grill in Washington, D.C. It's a really nice place. It is a really nice place. It's an expensive steakhouse. It is. This is a nice place from the outside. This is what it looks like on the inside. I don't know if you've ever been to Gallagher's in New York. I went to Gallagher's in New York once. My dad took me. He was on a trip for the government. He was on TDY, and we ended up in New York. And he's just like a lot of federal employees will do. He took his TDY trip and then added on days to it that he paid for himself. Yada yada yada. We ended up going to Gallagher's Steakhouse. It was pretty cool. Looked a lot like this, the old dark steakhouses, the old bourbon and steakhouses. That's what the Capitol Grill looks like. Nice place, huh? Well, turns out that Steve Scalise really likes going there. And in his FEC filings, Federal Election Commission's filings, which means these are campaign funds, just campaign funds. This isn't congressional spending where he's, his per diem, et cetera. That's not what we're talking about. These are just campaign funds spent at just this one restaurant. How much you think you spent? Oh, Terry, you snitch. I love my audience. They know. $500,000 Steve Scalise spent at one restaurant. Terry McGuire says 500,000. Yeah, I love you guys that are so many of you are so well informed. I swear to God, I love talking to you folks. I deal with idiots all day long on social media that say the stupidest stuff. And the fact that you guys are so well informed, I can't tell you how much I love that. Yeah, $500,000 spent at one steakhouse from his campaign funds. So yeah, when your crazy uncle or your pawpaw or whoever, he's down around New Orleans. He's in Louisiana's first district. So he loves his food, man. He's down around New Orleans. He's enjoying the largesse. When I tell you that it's a bit of a stretch to think that we're going to get 5 Republicans to jump over. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to do a lot of work. We're going to have to grease some wheels, smooth it out, get with our big donors, the few that we have, because the Billionaire Frat Boy Club has all kinds of organizations which they funnel money down to these campaigns. Every corporation does what's called bundling, and they'll send in maximum donations for each of their employees, their executives, just to funnel money into these campaigns. And you could see what they do with it. $500,000, man, in campaign cash to one steakhouse. Imagine what's there. And again, folks, I want you to think. I want you to think about that. The corporate media. This is public knowledge. These are FEC filings. If we had corporate media outlets that just would do just a little bit of journalism, but they don't. They don't, because they go to dinner with them. That's the truth. They do. They get invited to dinner with these folks. Before Trump did his big interview, on Meet the Press, he bought Dana Bash and Kristen Welker, took him to dinner over steaks and Merlot, man. So the corporate media doesn't serve you here. This isn't, I'm trying to stretch you, and I hope I'm making it clear. Let me know in the chat if I'm making it clear how easy this information would be to find. You could do it. You could do it yourself. File a FOIA request. There's a template online. Request FEC filings for any member of Congress that you'd like. There's 550 of them. We could crowdsource this. And then all you have to do is skim through the FEC filings and look for numbers that seem wacky. Like one restaurant getting $500,000 worth of business from one candidate. Oh, folks, it's just so yeah. Jim Jordan had made a deal. I'll support you if you get the votes. And then immediately, Jim Jordan and the Chaos Caucus attacked their guy. So Scalise withdrew because we know, hey, this is one restaurant on just his FEC filings. This story breaks, then all of a sudden, yeah, they got to look at it. And he knows more is going to come out. So Scalise said, I don't want to be speaker anymore. I'm out. So what does that leave us with? Oh, dear God. What does that leave us with? That leaves us with Jimmy Jordan. Jimmy Jordan is last man standing, and the Republicans are in complete and utter chaos trying to figure out what to do about it. And I am personally in fear over this because moderates don't do things like be holdouts. That's why they're moderate. It's the radical wing of a party that are the holdouts, the ones that do radical things. And moderates tend to not be holdouts because they want their steak and Merlot dinners, pardon me, steak and Cabernet dinners. I've been corrected. Steak and Cabernet dinners. That's all they want. There's a difference between, I'm going to leave this up here for a second. Please stick with me. There's a difference between Democrats and Republicans in Congress. Democrats have an entire office building that they've rented with office space so that their congressmen can go sit. They give them a list to phone bank to call people and try to raise money for their own reelection. Republicans don't have that problem. Republicans have the billionaire frat boy club. They've got checks showing up from people that they don't even know. Every day in their office, they get a list of talking points. That's why they all say the exact same thing. They don't even have to pay attention to what's going on. Someone tells the Republican congressman what to say. They do. I mean, they don't have to work on legislation because, famously the Kochs have their political organization that writes the legislation for the Republican Party. You have several interest groups that write the legislation for them. They hand them the legislation pre-written. All they have to do is go get their steak and Cabernet dinners. So getting a Republican to abandon that for having to come over to the Democratic side, where you actually have to work for your reelection, you have to pay attention, folks like Katie Porter that actually, write legislation, that actually has a staff that they work with to actually construct and build legislation. That's being a Democrat. It's a job, folks. It's a job. So it's going to be tough to get anyone to cross over to support Hakeem Jeffries. It is. It's going to be tough. But the last man standing right now is Jim Jordan. This guy's in the picture next to him is a guy by the name of Richard Strauss. I've talked to you about him before. Richard Strauss was a doctor at Ohio State University when Jim Jordan was a wrestling coach there. And Richard Strauss, he liked to diddle boys, and he abused. There's 230 so far Ohio State wrestlers that have signed on to a lawsuit, with dozens of them being settled already. They've paid out over $60 million in settlements. OSU's paid out. This is not yesterday's news, folks. This is not yesterday's news. This is news. This is still going on. To give you an idea, the Supreme Court just ruled in June. OSU was trying to get these cases thrown out, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're going to let them sue you. That was just in June that happened. These cases are still being litigated. And you got testimony like one wrestler said, I had a thumb injury. Went in to see doctors. They sent me in to see Dr. Strauss, and he pulls my pants down. I'm like, what the hell? I got a thumb injury. Why are you doing? Oh no, we've got to take a look, and you got to pull your pants down and check things downstairs. The plaintiff's attorneys have been able to contact several OSU wrestlers that went through the program. There said there could be as many as 1,500 to 2,000 student athletes that Richard Strauss abused, and 230 have signed on to the lawsuit. There is a video on ABC News. I can't play it for you. I got a copyright strike on me last show when I showed you the footage out of Israel. Can't do another one, so I can't show you the video, but I will tell you there is a video from ABC News talking about the wrestlers. I'll introduce you to a couple of them that are in the video that give firsthand accounts. And why is this relevant today? I mean, this isn't an old scandal. You know, yes, it's testimony to who Jim Jordan is, and the fact that instead of, you know, as one of the wrestlers summed up, you know, he did this to himself, because instead of just backing them and getting Strauss fired, he denied it. He just denied it. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything, period. And the wrestlers have given some pretty serious accounts of why he knew, including conversations that they had in the locker room. You know, Donald Trump and locker room talk. Well, the locker room talk was, why do I got to take my pants off every time I go into Richard Strauss's office? And a lot of these wrestlers are giving just tearful accounts of what he did to them. They had these conversations with Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan saw, you know, Coach Hellickson, Russ Hellickson was the head of the wrestling department. Had to have a talk. You know, he pulled the coaches in and went into to Richard Strauss's office to tell him to knock it off, because I mean, it's just, you've got to go back and watch these people's testimony. It's insane. Richard Strauss was going into the shower with these wrestlers, soaping up his woody, and stroking off in the shower with these guys. Every injury involved you taking your pants off, and, you know, him grabbing your genitals. And they knew about it. They knew about it. They talked to him about it, but they didn't do anything about it. Russ Hellickson, the guy in charge of the department, said, yeah, we had to talk to him. Jim Jordan knew. And instead of backing his wrestlers, he tried to get one of the wrestlers to betray his own brother. Trina Lang says, do you think that there are 5 to 6 normal Republicans that would vote with Dems for the country's sake? Yeah, I'm getting there, Trina. It's going to have to get a lot worse before that happens. Thank you for the comment. It's going to have to get a lot worse before that happens. The Republicans are going to have to take a lot of damage before that happens. And they're going to have to be looking into the future and say, well, I can switch over to being a Democrat and have to work for a living, or I can lose my job, period. And that's when the calculus will come in. That's when a few may cross over. But I don't have a lot of hope in these moderates, because moderates don't do a lot of radical things. That's why they're called moderates. But let me tell you how bad this is. Go back to Jim Jordan for a second. Let me tell you how bad this is. This is Adam Disabato. Adam Disabato was the captain of the wrestling team under Coach Jordan. And Jim Jordan, he's testified. Disabato has said, Jim Jordan called me in tears, begging, pleading with me for me to betray my brother. This is Adam Disabato's brother, Mike Disabato. He is one of the people that there are several wrestlers that are leading the way, that are taking the brunt of the attention, that are doing the interviews, that are talking, that are giving other wrestlers who are listed as John Doe the courage to come forward and join this lawsuit and explain what's going on. So Jim Jordan calls Adam Disabato bawling and crying and begging him to betray his own brother and undercut his own brother's story, when his own brother's story is about being sexually assaulted by a doctor that Jim Jordan knew was doing it. And that's our Republican Party. And again, I want to stress to you, Gypsy Mama says, also known as suborning perjury. Absolutely. And these civil cases are ongoing. This is the guy that Republicans may actually make Speaker of the House, who's going to have these cases ongoing while he's Speaker. Do you think that's going to make some international news? Ask the folks in our audience. We have a huge international audience here. Ask them. Yeah, they're going to hear about this. They're going to humiliate the country because the Chaos Caucus is insane. They want to burn it all down. They do. These are the people that are screaming because we're supporting Ukraine. These are the people that want to cut off all funding to Ukraine. These are the people that want 30% across the board spending cuts. 30%, folks. That's what they've asked for. They want to decimate your Medicare. They want to decimate your Social Security. This is the Chaos Caucus, folks. And so far, they're getting their way. That's how we got here in the first place, because McCarthy couldn't win the vote without making a deal with the Chaos Caucus that put rules in place that one member of the Chaos Caucus, Matt Gaetz, any member could have done it actually, but the Chaos Caucus was going to do it, could put a motion forward to vacate the chair. That's insane. That's huge instability baked into the cake. Peter Campbell says, this may be a subject for a separate show. Please discuss the information isolation bubble that great numbers of Americans live in. Thanks for the passion and the information. You know what? That's not a separate show. We're talking about that right now. We are. Because right now, while this is going on, while I'm telling you what's going on, just to show you what's happening with 40% of our nation, while we're talking about electing a Speaker of the House that does not, feel okay with throwing his kids under the bus in his own wrestling program and then lying about it to your face today. We've got Trump. Trump calls for Tlaib's impeachment over silence on Hamas terrorism. Yeah, you read that right, folks. You read that right. Attila Sakara says, I can't believe the amount of sexual abusers in the Republican Party. Looks like it's their safe house. Yeah, exactly. That's why they call everybody a pedophile. Projection. That's all Republicans do. It's project. So yeah, Rashida Tlaib says, hey, what Hamas did was a war crime, and then zips her lip. And Fox News is talking about, well, we need to impeach Rashida Tlaib for not speaking out. But then on the other hand, Ilhan Omar says, you know what? We need to have restraint. We need to have humanitarian, agreement going forward. Oh, well, she's got to be kicked out of the house because she spoke out and said that we should encourage this to not be, so brutal. Kick her out. She loves Hamas. One doesn't say anything. Kick her out. The other one says, hey, let's become a kick her out. That's the bubble that Peter Campbell's talking about. Your idiot neighbor that says ridiculous, stupid things. This is the news he's getting today. And folks, I want to do a little PSA here. Hamas has called for a day of rage today, especially if you are of Jewish heritage. Please avoid your synagogues today. Please. I'd recommend for everybody, stay out of crowded public spaces like malls, shopping centers if you don't have to. The terrorist organization Hamas has called for terrorist attacks in the United States specifically today. So, yeah, a little bit of caution on your part, please. That's real, folks. That is really real. Before we talk about what's going on in Israel, I just want to continue on with this. What folks on the right aren't hearing. You know, they're hearing Fox News talk about, let's get rid of Rashida Tlaib. Let's do that. Thank you for the support, Jenny in New York. But you've got to go to independent media like the Midas Touch to hear what the standard bearer, the head of the Republican Party, is saying. They've got a compilation video here I want to show you.
You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. But Hezbollah, they're very smart. I'll never forget.
Yeah, nobody likes when you say it. Nobody, not just the press. Nobody likes when you call Hezbollah smart.
Forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down. That was a very terrible thing. I will say that. They've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force. They're fighting potentially Iran. And when they have people saying the wrong things, everything they say is.
And right now, our government, our president, who's an actual leader, is actually working his ass off behind the scenes to try to keep a war from breaking out between Israel and Iran, because this is one of the worst attacks Israel's seen since perpetrated against Jews since the Holocaust. They're highly pissed, folks, and everybody is doing everything they can to keep a war from breaking out between them and Iran, because Iran trains, funds, and supports Hamas.
It's being digested by these people because they're vicious and they're smart. And boy, are they vicious, because nobody's ever seen the kind of sight that we've seen. But they cannot play games. So we were disappointed by that, very disappointed. But we did the job ourselves, and it was absolute precision, magnificent, beautiful job. And then Bibi tried to take credit for it. That wasn't good. That didn't make me feel too good, but that's all right.
He's fucking insane. I don't care if they demonetize this episode. I'm going to say this edition. He's fucking insane.
All right. So they got to strengthen themselves up. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north, because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. You know, I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls it with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man. They killed me the next day. I said he was smart. What am I going to say?
No, you said what you just said. Xi controls his people with an iron fist, that therefore he's very smart. And then you turn around and talk about the fascism you want to bring to America if you're ever elected again. That's why the press is attacking you, because it takes you proclaiming frickin' fascism for the corporate media to finally get off their damn ass and actually say something, because 40% of our damn population lives in a frickin' news desert when it comes to the Republican Party and their insanity.
But Hezbollah, they're very smart. And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, you would attack from the north, because.
Yeah, this moron just said that, because the defense minister warned his people to be careful, be prepared, because we expect Hezbollah may take this opportunity to attack us from the north, that, that's what caused Hezbollah to attack. My ass. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. They're trying to get momentum to drag Arab states into this, but every state in the region says, screw that noise. We don't want to fight Israel. There's only one. I've said this before. There's only one country in the region that can stand toe to toe with Israel, and that's Turkey. And Turkey does not want a war with Israel. Jenny in North Carolina says, off topic, but we must discuss GOP's Project 2025. I'm going to do an entire show on it. We're gathering more information on it. It's horrific what we know already. If you don't know what the 2025 project is, folks, the most radical of organizations within the Republican political sphere, they have come together with a marching orders game plan on how to cripple our government and institute fascism into our country. You know, Trump is a bumbling idiot. So what they're doing is they're giving him a guidebook in crayon on every step that he needs to take to institute fascism in our country. And it's real. It's really happening, folks. It's really happening. But back on topic. I know everybody is getting a little emotionally drained from all of this chaos with the Republicans. Let me play you a clip here as to why you can't. Why you got to stay in the fight. This is Michael McCall from my neighborhood in Texas. This is what, just listen to what he has to say.
Message there, but just the bottom line is the House is paralyzed right now. There's a lot of talk about the action for Israel, and we've been really pushing for that.
Yeah, so
the audio may be a little difficult to hear the reporter because he's not being picked up on the mic. He's basically asking him about the chaos in the Republican caucus.
a dangerous game that we're playing. It just proves our adversaries right that democracy doesn't work. Our adversaries are watching this. In Israel,
It's just proving our adversaries right that democracy doesn't work. You know, I had a lot of left-wing apologists attack me for posting this video saying he didn't mean that. He did. How many times do they have to tell you that democracy doesn't work, that they're against democracy before you just believe them? You know, it was the incomparable Maya Angelou that said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. He did not stutter when he said that. Our enemies are right. Democracy does not work.
is watching. They need our help. I have my resolution condemning Hamas, supporting Israel. We can't even vote on that until we put a speaker in the chair. And I'm going to remind my colleagues about how dangerous this.
He says it out loud. What I've been screaming. Our State Department is hobbled. We don't have appointed, approved, congressionally affirmed ambassadors in Israel. We don't have a congressionally affirmed ambassador in Egypt. Israel almost went to war with Egypt a few days ago because they bombed the crossing down in Rafah, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit, to open up the Rafah gate because Egypt's saying, you can't come south. You can't come south into Rafah City from Gaza City. You can't. You can't do it. We're not going to allow it. So Israel blew the gate into oblivion just to give Palestinians a half-assed chance of being able to get out of the way. But let's finish this up.
Says Israel's going to need an aid package. I've been having discussions with the White House about that. But if we don't have a speaker, we can't assist Israel in this great time of need after this terrorist attack. So I think we're playing with.
Yeah. Again, everybody says, oh, you're being a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am simply saying what is happening right now. Republicans have decapitated our State Department. We do not have ambassadors, confirmed ambassadors in place in these critical areas. We just don't. We don't have promoted people in our military to take leadership positions in our military because Tommy Tuberville, Republican Tommy Tuberville, has decapitated our military. That's happening right now. The House of Representatives has been thrown into chaos. And as Michael McCall tells you, the Republicans we can't pass an Israeli aid package. We can't support Israel right now in this. There's really nothing we can do. I don't believe in coincidences, folks. I don't. Russia just started a suicide offensive in Advika, we're going to talk about here in a minute, at the exact same time. And the Republicans have done it all. The party of Putin, you've seen them over and over and over again, blatantly out in the open tell you we're the party of Putin. You know, I mean, as Maya Angelou said, when they tell you who they are, believe them. And as Peter Campbell said, you know, I can't thank you enough, Peter Campbell. I can't. That was a wonderful point that was leading right into what I wanted to talk about today. Because this is what Fox News is talking about today. This is why the idiots on the right have no clue what's going on. Because all they hear are attacks on Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. Oh my God, let's try to vilify members of, you know, let's cause as much fragmentation and dissent in America as possible, going into a section where the Middle East might blow up into war. And it may go there, folks. And I'll explain why in just a second. But here's Fox News. What's important to them? Awkward Democratic senator known for wardrobe controversy. Guy dresses down. Big controversy. Mocks Americans' voting choices because, you know, John Fetterman hilariously on Colbert made the joke that America is not sending its best and brightest to Washington, D.C., talking about his colleagues across the aisle and how they're crippling our government and our military and our State Department. They're talking about, they think it's a flex to say, oh, yeah, John Fetterman, he's ugly. That's what half our population is frickin' hearing. And you wonder why they're frickin' morons. Meanwhile, you've got this going on. Little update in Ukraine, real quick. This is Donetsk, the city of Donetsk. You see that in the background, that smoke in the background? That's Advika. That's where Russians are committing suicide. They've lost over 1,000 tanks and armored personnel carriers. You see, there are no planes in the air because neither side can establish air superiority here, because you put a plane in the air, it dies. So they're slugging it out on the ground. The Ukrainians are just mowing down Russians. And I want you to take a look at this. This is from Reuters. This is a beautiful, perfect example picture. Look at these buildings. This is inside Donetsk, not a broken window. None of these buildings have been touched by war at all. And this is why the Russians are committing suicide right now. Because when this fighting reaches Donetsk, the refugees from Donetsk, most are not going to be streaming into Ukraine. They're going to be streaming into Russia, because Russia has pumped this region full of Russian citizens since their invasion. And Putin desperately does not want those images. They don't want the images of Russian refugees streaming in on the highways back to Moscow. They don't. So they're willing to kill. They're going to lose in this battle. They're going to lose 100,000 men. This is going to be Stalingrad 2.0. If you're into history like me, you know how serious that is. Because once the Ukrainians take Avdiivka, they've got positions to where they can shell Donetsk, and Donetsk will fall. That's what's going on in Ukraine, while all this idiocy with the Republican Party, with Jimmy Jordan and Steve Scalise and his frickin' steakhouse are all going on in the Republican shit show. I mean, this is what's going on in the world. Folks, we are about to see a brutal incursion into Gaza. We are. It's going to be brutal. And this is why. I want to address a couple of things. First of all, aid into Israel. If you send humanitarian aid, the Israelis are saying this is no joke. This is no joke. They've cut off food, fuel, and water to Gaza because of this. There is a spider web maze of tunnels and bunkers that Hamas has dug underneath Gaza. They go into Israel. They've been found and destroyed going into Israel, and they go south through Rafah. Rafah is what's on the other side of the wall in Gaza, in southern Gaza. It's the Egyptian city of Rafah. This is how they smuggle arms in and out. This is forgive me. This is the gate that the Israelis just blew up going into Rafah, because the Egyptians, are standing there with AK-47s refusing to allow Palestinians into their country. Hamas was barricading this gate that goes into Egypt, and Israel blew it up, said, no, we're going to give the Palestinians half a chance to get out. They've been broadcasting since the 8th. The IDF has been broadcasting into Gaza on Arabic language channels that they need to move, that they need to get out of, beginning with northern Gaza. They're giving them safe zones to go to, telling them where to go to avoid the fighting. They've put a statement out that they've told residents Hamas operations are forcing the IDF to operate in your place of residence. For your safety, you must leave your place of residence immediately. They didn't start that today. The corporate media are so full of crap. They're saying, well, today they've started. No, they've been broadcasting this since the 8th. Since, this started on the 7th. They've been broadcasting this since the 8th. And the mainstream media is just not giving you any information on it. And what the Israelis have been open and said that they have to do. I mean, look at this. Look how finished these tunnels are. Imagine the amount of support. Every time the Israeli IDF soldiers go into Gaza, if one of them gets captured, they get drugged down into these tunnels. It's like Vietnam all over again. And Israel has said, look, we can't keep doing this. We're going to destroy the tunnels. We're going to put charges in all of these tunnels, and we're going to end this, which is going to decimate your homes. because your homes are built on top of them, but there's nothing we can do because this is what Hamas does. So if you send aid in, Hamas takes it at gunpoint and runs it down into these tunnels. And the only people that get any of the aid are those closely associated with and supporting Hamas. Hamas takes it at gunpoint. And there's another scandal that's happening. Now, I want to give you one more view of these Hamas tunnels, how they operate through them. They're proud of them. This is from Hamas. I mean, this is from Hamas. They're very proud of this tunnel network, bunker networks. But there's been another scandal, and it involves white phosphorus. And white phosphorus is terrible. We call it Willie Pete. It's an incendiary. That's a white phosphorus bomb going off. White phosphorus burns at 1,500 degrees. Water can't put it out. You don't want it on you, folks. You don't. They have to smear you with surgical jelly to starve the phosphorus of oxygen to remove it from you. They have to literally cut away your flesh. It is horrific. That's why Israel has been broadcasting. That's why Israel has been broadcasting since the 8th that you have to get out of these areas. And this is what Hamas has been broadcasting, that this is a war crime. It is not a war crime. Thank you for saying this, Mary P. I really appreciate it. It is not a war crime. It's an incendiary. You cannot use it as a first weapon. You cannot attack first with Willie Pete. You can't. That is a war crime. That is. But incendiaries are absolutely legal. And the reason they use them is first they shell an area or bomb an area, depending on whether they use airplanes or artillery. Then they will hit it with Willie Pete. Why? Because all of the debris is full of curtains, my producer's cat carrier, furniture, gun cabinets, couches, vehicles that can be rigged with improvised explosives. The areas are ambush nightmares and homes for snipers. So they shell them, then they hit them with Willie Pete and burn everything that's flammable to the ground. That's standard operating procedure. It's standard operating procedure. So no, it's not a war crime, but it's awful. It's freaking awful. Because Hamas isn't letting the civilians leave. They're holding them at gunpoint. And I wish there was a way, folks. I wish you could tell me a way to make what's about to happen not happen. But Israel has said, these tunnels are gone. We are not doing this anymore. We're going to move through every square inch of Gaza, and we are going to remove all of these bunkers and all of these tunnels. Thank you, Barbara Lanke. I appreciate the support. And it's going to be awful, folks. And I hate it. I hate it. And yes, Douglas Frank, I appreciate it. You can look it up and I'm not advocating for white phosphorus. I hate incendiaries. I'm just explaining that's why they use incendiaries. We have several incendiaries in our arsenal. We as America, we use them. We do. We give them to allies to use. This isn't something Israel just dreamed up to be horrific. But yeah, it's killing me because everybody is trying, because you're good and decent people are trying to figure out what you can do for the Palestinians. If you try to give them aid, Hamas takes it. They feed their soldiers with it. Try to give them medicine, Hamas takes it. They use it for their battlefield triage. It's heartbreaking. And I wish I had an answer for you. I really do. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. I don't. But I am watching what's going on. I am. I'm watching what's going on. And I'm going to try to do my best to keep you informed. Well, we reached the end of the show, and I don't want to go too long, so let's do the roundtable. Any questions or comments that you have, please throw them out there, please. Jim Jordan, Scalise, anything that's going on. What's going on in North Carolina and that horrific voter suppression bill that they just passed? That's the Supreme Court. The governor vetoed the bill, and Republicans are so hell bent on cheating. Thank you for the support, Love of Dogs. I really appreciate you. Don't forget Ukraine. I know there's a lot of new stuff in the news. Don't sleep on Ukraine. Russia is really desperate. Putin is extremely desperate. He sees his grip on power crumbling. And they're doing everything they can to try to drive wedges between us, doing everything they can to foment. When these attacks from Hamas had happened, there were huge, massive troll bursts of misinformation that were put out there that were just horrible. I mean, horrible. Now, I saw one where they were carrying what they said was a dead kid killed by Israelis through the streets, screaming about it. And then the alarms went off for the rockets, the incoming rocket attack in Gaza. So they put the kid down and everybody scatters. And then the kid is suddenly resurrected, jumps up out from underneath the sheet and takes off running. There's so much misinformation. I'm calling the Middle East right now the sea of lies. The sea of lies. Because it's like no one will tell you the damn truth. You have to dig into everything. Lady AJ says, why are we okay with the way Israel has dealt with Gaza until now? The average age of Gaza is 18 years old. It's been horrific for years. The Hamas attack is terrible, but why support Israel? I have supported Palestine for years and the Palestinians for years. I have not been okay with it. So your assumption that all of us here are okay with the plight of the Palestinian people is just wrong. But you know what? When something horrible happened with the Palestinian people, I didn't say, oh, but they did terrible things to Israel. I didn't minimize it. I didn't. And that's what it is. When Hamas attacks Israel, declares war on Israel, slaughters civilians, rapes civilians, murders children, babies shot in their beds and beheaded. Yeah, I'm not going to minimize it by saying, oh, but they did terrible things to Palestinians. Those lives matter. Just like the Palestinian lives mattered all the way up until October 6th. I talked about it all the time. Thanks for the support, Melody Reagan. Don't minimize what happened in Israel. Don't do it. It's just don't. And I will tell you this. I want you to know, folks, we're going to run just about 5 minutes long here because this is important. I have constantly advocated for Palestine, just like I do the Kurds, because the Kurds are treated the exact same way. Every country in the region, whether it's the Israelis or the Arabs, use and abuse the Palestinian people. Hamas does. Fatah does. The former Palestine Liberation Organization that turned into Fatah. They abuse and abuse the Palestinian people. Jordan does. Syria does. Lebanon does. Egypt does. And yes, Israel does. And I don't understand. I don't understand why Israel gets singled out. Israel uses them for their labor the same way Jordan does. You know, the majority of people living in Jordan are Palestinian. They're Palestinian Arabs. Yet they were just given citizenship, but it's not real citizenship. It can be taken away at any time. So it's not like real citizenship. Like we're stuck with Elon Musk. He's been naturalized. He's no longer technically South African. He's an American now. And we can't take that shit back. That's not what it's like for Palestinians in Jordan. So yeah, if you want to advocate for the Palestinians, you know, maybe not make it all about Israel. Uncle Fatty, I really appreciate the support, man. I really do. And how does the new internet working out? Is it smoother? Is the camera better? We got about 3 minutes left. Let's find another good comment. Tammy Talpas. I'm here in Austin, Texas, just off the Balcones Canyonlands Wildlife Preserve. You would feel right at home here. We are good people. I lived there for 10 years. So yeah, been there, done that. Appreciate you. I retired out here for family. Rich Lawton, always good. Texas Paul, you're always, I appreciate that, Mr. Lawton. I do. I appreciate the support. All right, let's find one more good topic to talk about. The United Arab Emirates import Palestinian laborers and use them like slaves. Passports are taken. They can't leave until the contractors are done with them. Yes, yes, absolutely. You know, while I advocated for the Palestinian people, these are the things I talked about. In the oil fields, they're used as frickin' slaves, man. They are all across the area. They bring them in, they take their passports, they put them in camps, force them into labor, and if they don't complete every little bit, they don't get the little bit of pay that they were working for, which is crap for the region, but it's money they can bring home to their family. And that's the way the Arabs treat them. It's horrible. And the same thing, don't sleep on the Kurds, folks. The exact same thing is being done to the Kurds. Well, folks, it's 11:04. I'm going to leave you with some images of some beautiful Texas cities at night. I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. I really do. I try to be informative. I will stay on top of things. I will keep bringing you good information. Again, thank you all for the support. I really appreciate it. You know, take a look at the Texas Paul store. We still got the You Do Boo Boo cups. I love the little flower there on the little girl goes. Me and Mrs. Texas Paul there. I love that. Anyways, enjoy, folks. Y'all have a wonderful day. It's the weekend, man. It's the weekend. Try to put some of this heavy stuff down. Stay away from big public gatherings today. Enjoy your weekend.